The silent figure by the church wall. The wind was cold that night. The old church stood quiet, its broken roof open to the stars. Leaves moved across the stone floor, as if trying to whisper secrets. Ethan, a young man in his 20s, was helping clean the place for the winter. He came here every weekend, not because he was religious, but because he liked peace and quiet. But tonight didn't feel peaceful. As he walked behind the church to put away some tools, he stopped. Someone was there, a girl she was sitting with. Her knees pulled up, back against the damp church wall. She was shaking badly, almost naked, just a thin cloth barely covering her. Her long white hair stuck to her face from the cold mist. Her skin, pale and strange, looked almost like it glowed under the moonlight. Not bright, but soft, like light behind ice. Ethan froze. He didn't expect anyone here, especially not someone like this. "Hey," he called out carefully. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't answer. She looked up slowly, her eyes wide and scared. They weren't normal eyes. They were large, silver with little sparks inside. Not contacts, not human. But Ethan didn't think about that yet. He took off his jacket and slowly walked toward her. "I'm not gonna hurt you, all right? You're freezing." She didn't move as he put the jacket around her shoulders. Her skin was ice cold, but she didn't pull away. Her lips trembled, but she still didn't speak. Just stared at him like she didn't understand his words or like she didn't know if she could trust him. Ethan looked around. No car, no bag, no shoes on her feet. "What happened to you? Did someone do this to you?" Still silence. He knelt beside her. "Do you want to come inside? There's a little fire in the church hall. You'll get warmer there." She shook her head finally. It was a soft, scared motion. And then she whispered one word: "Hide." Her voice was gentle, musical, but weak. "Hide?" Ethan asked, confused. "From what?" She didn't answer. Her eyes darted upward. Something passed over the sky, a low hum. A small black object like a drone hovered above for a few seconds, scanning the area with a soft red light. Ethan didn't move. He had never seen a drone like that before. The girl curled tighter into herself, afraid. When the drone flew away into the clouds, she exhaled, slow and deep. Ethan didn't ask more questions. He helped her stand up. Her legs wobbled under her. Wait, she couldn't even walk properly. He lifted her in his arms, surprised at how light she was. She didn't resist. Inside the old church, it was warmer. Ethan had made a small fire in a corner barrel. He found an old blanket and wrapped her in it. She sat on the wooden bench, close to the flames, eyes never leaving him. "You need food," he said. "Wait here. I'll get something from my truck." She watched him leave but didn't say a word. When he came back 5 minutes later with some water, crackers, and a protein bar, she was still in the same spot, frozen like a statue. She stared at the food, then slowly took it. She ate with small bites, careful, like she hadn't eaten in days. Maybe weeks. Ethan noticed something strange on her wrist. A glowing mark, like a tattoo, but it wasn't ink. It moved softly, like it was alive. When she noticed him looking, she quickly pulled the sleeve down. "Okay, that's not normal," Ethan muttered to himself. He sat down a few feet away. "My name's Ethan. I don't know who you are, but you look like you need help. I won't tell anyone, I promise. Just tell me, are you in danger?" She looked at him. For a moment, their eyes locked. Then, very softly, she nodded. Ethan didn't ask more. He could see she wasn't ready to speak. He decided to let her rest. Tomorrow he'd take her to someone. Maybe a shelter, maybe a hospital. She needed warmth, food, clothes, safety. But something deep inside him whispered, this girl was not from here. And not just not from this town. She was from somewhere else entirely. That night, as she lay asleep on the bench near the fire, Ethan sat close, watching the strange patterns on her skin glow and fade like breathing light. He had no idea what he had just stepped into, but it had already begun. Morning sunlight slipped through the broken glass of the church windows. Ethan opened his eyes. He had fallen asleep sitting against the wall, but the girl was still there curled under the blanket, glowing softly even in daylight. For a moment he thought it had all been a dream. But the faint hum in the air, mark on her wrist, and her strange silver eyes told him otherwise. She was real, and she was in danger. He stood up quietly and stretched. She opened her eyes without warning, as if she hadn't been sleeping at all, just pretending. Her eyes locked onto him again, alert, calm, but guarded. "Do you remember anything now?" he asked gently. "Like your name?" She looked at him for a long time, then whispered something he didn't expect. "Don't say name. They hear names." Ethan froze. "They?" She sat up, holding the blanket close to her. "No names, no voice outside." "Safe place?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, but not for long." He made a quick decision. The church wasn't safe if someone or something was tracking her. There was an old shed nearby behind his uncle's farm. It was half fallen and mostly forgotten. He could hide her there for now. "I'm taking you somewhere safer," he said. "Can you walk?" She nodded, but when she stood up, she nearly fell again. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. Her body felt strange light, but warm now. And there was something beneath her skin that shimmered like faint electricity. He didn't ask questions. He carried her again, wrapping the blanket tight to hide her glowing legs. They walked the back trail out of the church, past the woods, and over a small fence. After 20 minutes, they reached the shed. It was small, dusty, and dark. But it had a roof and no windows. No one would think to look inside. He laid her on the old blanket spread over some hay. "This place isn't perfect," he said, "but it's quiet. I'll bring food, water, and clothes." She looked around, nodding slowly. "Dark is better." Ethan stepped outside for a moment and called his friend Liam, pretending to ask about car parts, just to keep things normal. Then he turned off his phone completely. He didn't want anything tracked. Back in the shed, she had curled up into the corner, eyes closed but breathing heavy. Ethan whispered, "Are you sure you're not hurt?" She slowly opened her eyes and reached for her shoulder. Under the blanket, she pulled her shirt aside. There was a wound hidden near her collarbone. But it wasn't bleeding like a human wound. It was glowing blue, with slow-moving light traveling outward like veins of fire. Ethan gasped. "That's not from here." She winced and turned away, ashamed. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to stare." He opened his bag and handed her a small mirror. She looked at herself and sighed. "Energy leaking," she said softly. "I am broken." "No, just hurt," Ethan replied. "We'll figure something out. What do you need, medicine?" She shook her head. "No medicine here, not Earth kind. I need starlight." He frowned. "Starlight?" "Like sunlight," she pointed up weakly. "My world. Not this sun. My energy is wrong here." Ethan didn't understand most of it, but he understood the look on her face. She was dying slowly. Not from the wound, but from being far from home. Suddenly they heard something outside. A soft click. Then a whir. Ethan moved to the shed door and peeked through a crack. 2 men in black coats were walking across the field near the shed. They looked official, military maybe, but they weren't from any base he knew. One of them held a scanning device. It beeped slowly and pointed toward the shed. Ethan turned pale. He looked back at the girl. "Can you hide?" She crawled behind some wooden boards, pressing her body into the wall. Her skin faded slightly, almost matching the darkness. Ethan stepped outside the shed and shut the door behind him. The 2 men stopped. One of them smiled. "You live nearby, sir?" the man asked. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, just fixing the old roof." "Seen anything strange? Someone walking by?" "We're Tracking a lost drone." Ethan's heart pounded. "Nope, just squirrels and birds." The other man looked over his device. Strange. Readings say otherwise. Their eyes didn't blink. And for one quick moment, Ethan saw it under their lids, a blue flash. These men weren't human. He smiled. "Well, good luck finding your drone." The men stared at him for a few seconds longer than necessary, then turned and walked away. When they were gone, Ethan rushed back into the shed. The girl stepped out from the shadows. "They found me," she whispered. "Yeah," he said. "But they didn't find you today." She looked at him, her eyes softening. "Why help me?" she asked. He shrugged. "You look like you needed it. And something tells me you're not just anyone." She looked down, then back up. "I was supposed to be queen." Ethan blinked. "Wait, what?" She leaned against the wall, her energy fading again. "Now, I'm just a secret behind a church wall." And her eyes closed. The next morning was quiet, but Ethan didn't feel calm. His thoughts were heavy. He kept looking out the window of his uncle's barn, where he now hid the girl. The shed was no longer safe, not after those strange men had walked so close. Inside the barn's back room, the girl, still weak, still silent most of the time, was lying on a pile of soft cloth and blankets. She looked like someone out of a dream. Her skin, smooth and pale, shimmered faintly under the soft light. Her long hair had dried and now had a silver shine, almost like strands of starlight. Ethan had stayed up most of the night. He had questions. So many questions. But he didn't push her. She had barely survived. Still, something kept pulling him toward the truth. He sat beside her and gently handed her a cup of warm soup. She took it with both hands, her fingers still shaky. "You said you were supposed to be a queen," he said quietly. "Can you tell me more?" She didn't answer. Her silver eyes stayed on the cup. "I just want to understand," Ethan continued. "I won't tell anyone. I swear." After a long silence, she placed the cup down and slowly pulled back her shirt, just enough to show her upper back. Ethan's breath caught. There, glowing just under her skin, was a beautiful mark. Not a scar, not a tattoo. It was like living light. The mark formed a shape, a crown with wings, circled by stars. It pulsed with gentle energy. She turned her head and whispered, "It's called the crest of the first flame." Ethan was stunned. "What does it mean?" "It means I was born into the flame house," she said softly. "We rule our system. My mother was queen. I was next." He couldn't believe what he was hearing. This wasn't a movie. This girl was real, and she was royalty. "What happened to your mother?" he asked. She looked away. "Killed. Betrayed. By her own guards. They took power and tried to remove me too. But one of the loyal aides helped me escape. He sent me here through an old jump gate hidden in the moon's shadow. I landed here, alone, injured. Ethan tried to take it all. In a real alien queen, hiding behind old wood and farm tools. And those men from yesterday?" he asked. "They were after you?" She nodded slowly. "They are called hunters. They are not fully alive, mixed with machines. They can track energy from the crest. That's why I can't stay in one place too long." Ethan stood up and paced. "We need a plan, a real one. You can't keep hiding forever." She watched him with curious eyes. "Why do you help me?" He stopped and looked at her. "Because you didn't deserve to be thrown out like trash. Because I saw you nearly frozen behind a church and no one else was around. Because I couldn't leave you there." A strange light passed over her face. Something warm. Something soft. "No one on my world ever said that," she whispered. Not even before the betrayal. Just then, Ethan's phone buzzed. He had turned it back on only for a second to check the weather, but it lit up with a message. "Unknown device has located your signal." He stared at it. "They're tracking me," through the phone. He tossed it to the ground and smashed it with a nearby rock. We need to move again, he said quickly. Do they know your face? Can they scan your body? She nodded. But not if the crest is hidden. I can cover it. With enough energy, I can mask it. How do we get you more energy? He asked. She pulled something small from the folds of her blanket. A crystal, shaped like a sharp leaf, glowing faintly. This holds starlight. From my world, but it's almost empty. Ethan looked at it. Can I charge it? With electricity, solar panel, anything? She smiled slightly for the first time. Your light is not the same, but your kindness is stronger than energy. He stared at her, confused. The crest only binds to those with strong hearts, she said. When you gave me your jacket, the crest felt it. It recognized you. What does that mean? It means I am not just a fugitive now, she said. I am bonded to you, Ethan blinked. Bonded? Like married? Not fully, she replied, but close. On my world, only a ruler can share the crest, and only with someone they choose to protect them. His voice dropped to a whisper. So now they're hunting me too? Yes, she said gently. But it also means you're stronger now. Ethan backed away, heart pounding. He didn't sign up for any of this. But one look into her tired, shining eyes made him stay. We'll survive, he said finally. But I'm not leaving you. Not now. The royal girl of starlight gave him a soft nod. And for the first time since arriving on Earth, she believed him. The wind howled louder that evening. Clouds gathered, casting strange shadows over the fields. Ethan didn't like it. Something felt off, like the world was holding its breath. Even the cows on his uncle's land were quiet. No sounds, no movement. Inside the barn, the alien girl Serenia, as she finally told him her name, was sitting near the small heater Ethan had brought. Her silver eyes watched the door without blinking. She hadn't eaten much, and her wound was glowing brighter. Ethan had tried to wrap it better, but the light leaked through the bandages. It wasn't blood, it was something else, like energy. Escaping slowly. She looked at him. They're close. Ethan turned sharply. You feel them? She nodded. They follow the bond now. The moment your phone sent a signal, they marked us. They're never far once that happens. Ethan's stomach twisted. Then we don't have much time. He packed a small bag with food, water, and a map. We need to leave. There's an old cave system up in the hills. We can hide there. Serenia stood up slowly, her legs weak. But she nodded. Just as Ethan opened the barn door, a soft hum buzzed through the air. Then, a sound like footsteps. Too heavy to be human. He pulled Serenia back inside. Through the cracks in the wood, he saw them. Two of them. Tall, dressed in black armor. Their faces were smooth, like metal masks without features. But their eyes glowed blue. Their steps were too perfect, like machines learning to walk like men. Ethan's heart raced. They're not just tracking, they're here. Serenia whispered. Hunters. They were once royal guards. Before they were changed. Now they serve the false king. The hunters split up. One moved toward the barn. The other scanned the field with a device that chirped softly. Ethan whispered, Is there any way to fight them? She shook her head. Not with weapons. Not yours. Their suits are made of phase steel. Bullets pass through. He felt helpless. He wasn't a soldier. He was just a guy who fixed up old buildings and helped his uncle feed cows. But Serenia was watching him closely. The bond may help. What bond? The crest's linked to you. It changes you slowly, if your heart accepts it. It gives protection, maybe more, maybe? Ethan whispered, confused. Just then, the barn door creaked open. One of the hunters stepped inside. Ethan grabbed a long wooden pole and stepped in front of Serenia. His hands were shaking, but he stood tall. The hunter scanned him. The blue light from its eyes swept over Ethan's face, then down to his chest. The light stopped on Ethan's heart. The hunter paused. Serena's voice was barely a whisper. It seized the bond. The hunter raised its arm, ready to strike. A long blade extended from its wrist, shimmering like silver fire. Ethan closed his eyes, expecting pain. But instead, crack! A burst of blue-white energy exploded from his chest. The hunter was thrown back through the barn wall, crashing into the dirt with a metallic groan. Ethan looked at his hands. They were glowing faintly. What the hell? He breathed. Serena was smiling for the first time. The crest accepts you. The second hunter rushed in, faster than a blur. But this time, Ethan didn't move out of fear. He moved from instinct. He grabbed the wooden pole again, but it felt different, lighter, stronger. As the hunter leapt at him, Ethan spun and struck its chest. A bright spark burst from the impact. The hunter stumbled back, shocked. Ethan didn't wait. He picked up Serena in his arms and ran out the back. They sprinted through the open fields toward the hills. The hunters tried to follow, but something had changed. Ethan was moving faster than before. The wind didn't slow him down. The earth beneath his feet felt lighter. Serena clung to him, her eyes wide. "This is how kings are chosen," she whispered. "Not by blood, but by bond." They reached the edge of the forest as the sun dipped low. Trees blocked the sky, and the path twisted uphill. They followed an old hiking trail Ethan remembered from his childhood. By nightfall, they reached the cave. It wasn't deep, but it was hidden, covered by vines and rocks. Inside it was cool and dry. Ethan laid Serena down gently. She was shaking. Again. The run had taken too much from her. He gave her water, held her hand, and waited. Outside, the night was full of silence. But Ethan knew that silence didn't mean safety. The hunters would return. And next time, they might not hesitate. But something inside him had changed. He wasn't the same man who found a nearly naked girl behind a church. He was something else now, and so was she. The cave was silent except for Serena's quiet breaths. Her head rested on Ethan's arm as she slept. She looked peaceful, but he could tell something inside her was breaking. Her skin had lost some of its glow. Her energy, the one that once danced beneath her skin like soft light, now flickered faintly like a dying star. Ethan kept watch at the entrance, staring into the thick forest. Shadows moved. Owls called. But no blue-eyed hunters. Not yet. He checked the crystal she'd shown him earlier. The starlight inside it was nearly gone, just a dim spark left. And that spark, Serena had said, was what kept her alive. Ethan felt helpless. How could he protect someone whose body needed something Earth didn't have? He turned to her and gently asked, "Is there any way to get you more of this light?" She blinked awake, her voice soft. "Only from a star like mine, or from a heart that burns with bondlight." Ethan frowned. "Bondlight?" She nodded. "You're bonded to me. Now the crest linked us. If your emotions are strong enough, it may charge the crystal." "That's not how energy works," Ethan muttered. But Serena reached for his hand. "Your world has machines, mine has hearts. Same goal, different rules." He looked at her glowing eyes and realized this wasn't just science. It was something deeper. He held the crystal in his palm, closed his eyes, and thought of the first night he found her. Alone, cold, nearly dying. He remembered her soft voice asking for help. Her eyes begging silently. He thought of her smile when he gave her food. He thought of how she said, "You're stronger now." A soft warmth grew in his chest. Then flashed out. The crystal in his palm lit up. Serena gasped. Her hand flew to her chest as her crest pulsed, once, twice, like a heartbeat restarting. "You did it," she whispered. But before Ethan could speak, a loud crack echoed from the forest. Branches snapped. Voices, mechanical, inhuman. They were back. Ethan jumped up and looked through the vines. Lights moved between trees, blue lights. "How did they find us?" he hissed. Serenia struggled to sit up. The crest. It recharged, but it also sent a signal. Ethan grabbed his small pack and helped her to her feet. We have to move now. They left the cave and slipped into the deeper forest. Ethan had spent time here as a kid. He remembered hidden paths, old dry creeks, and animal trails. He guided her through narrow spaces between roots and across stone-covered slopes. Behind them, the lights moved faster. The hunters were close. Ethan's legs burned, but he didn't stop. Serenia stumbled often, but he kept her upright. Her strength was returning, but not fast enough. They reached a low, rocky hill. Ethan turned toward an opening between the stones. Through here, it leads to an old mining path. They crawled through the gap, brushing dirt and leaves from their faces. Just as they reached the other side, a sharp buzz hit the air. A blast of energy scorched the rocks behind them. They're shooting now, Ethan said, breathless. Serenia looked behind them. They won't stop. The false king wants me erased. Well, he's got a problem, Ethan said, helping her. Stand, because I'm not giving you up. The path opened up into a clearing. In the middle stood an old, rusted railway cart, once used by miners. Its wheels were stiff, but Ethan pulled with everything he had. Get in, he shouted. Serenia climbed in as Ethan shoved the cart forward along the broken tracks. Gravity did the rest. The cart rolled down the slope, faster and faster, bumping and rattling through vines and fog. Behind them, 2 hunters burst from the trees. One raised its arm, and a red dart flew past Ethan's head, narrowly missing. Hold on, he yelled. The cart hit a sharp turn, almost flying off the track. Serenia screamed, grabbing Ethan's arm tightly. The track finally ended at a broken tunnel, the entrance partly buried by a fallen tree. Go! Ethan jumped out and helped her out of the cart. Together they crawled under the tree and into the tunnel. Inside, it was pitch dark. Ethan pulled out a small flashlight. It flickered weakly but gave them enough light to see damp stone walls and deep shadows. They walked deeper. Far behind them, the hunters stopped at the tree. They didn't follow. Serenia gasped. They won't enter. Why not? Ethan asked. She touched the wall. This place. It's sacred ground. Even they fear it. The tunnel had strange symbols on the walls, similar to the one on her back. Ethan ran his fingers along one. Do you know what this place is? She nodded slowly. It's a path. A gate. To something even I was never meant to see. Ethan looked at her, confused. So, do we go forward? She smiled, tired but strong. Yes, into the shadows. And hand in hand, they walked into the dark where no hunter dared follow. The tunnel became colder the deeper they went. The walls pulsed with faint blue veins of light like the inside of a living thing. Ethan kept glancing at the symbols that glowed under their footsteps. But Serenia never looked scared. Her fingers traced the walls like she knew them, like they remembered her. This place was built before my birth, she whispered. Before my mother's mother. Only royal blood can pass through safely. Ethan's voice echoed softly. And what happens if someone else walks in? She looked at him gently. The tunnel senses hearts. It knows who comes with truth. And who comes with greed. Ethan paused, hand on his chest. So it accepted me? She nodded. It saw your bond to me. That's the only reason you're still breathing. He tried to smile, but his hands were shaking. He wasn't used to glowing caves, ancient energy. Tunnels, or the idea that a war from another world was following him, but still, he hadn't left her. He wasn't going to die. As they reached a large stone door ahead, the symbols on Serenia's back began to shine brighter, warmer. The stone creaked and slowly opened. Inside was a large chamber, round and smooth, with a pedestal in the center. On it lay a floating object, a silver orb, spinning slowly with light inside. Serenia stepped forward, barefoot, silent. This is the heart flame, she said softly. It was made to awaken royal power if a ruler was ever cast out and forced to return. Ethan stood beside her. Will it help you? It will test me, she said. And the bond. Before he could ask what that meant, the orb suddenly pulsed and beams of light shot out from it, one hitting Serenia, the other slamming into Ethan's chest. He screamed. He fell to his knees as energy flooded his body. His skin burned, not with fire, but with pressure, heat, like his very soul was being examined. Serenia collapsed beside him, eyes wide in pain but not fear. In the air above them, images began to swirl. Ethan saw her past. He saw her running through golden halls, dressed in silken robes, laughing with her mother. Then came the betrayal, her guards turning on her, the crash through a portal, her arrival on Earth. He saw it all. Then the images turned to him, his lonely nights, his simple life, his memories of helping strangers, of carrying old people's groceries, of fixing broken chairs at the church without being asked. His quiet kindness. The orb responded to that. It flared. The energy stopped. Ethan gasped for air. Enya touched his face. It accepted you. He blinked. What does that mean? The heart flame approved the bond. You're not just connected to me anymore. She paused, her voice trembling. You're bound to the throne. Ethan stood slowly. Wait, I'm what? She stepped back and bowed her head, not out of weakness, but respect. On my world, a ruler cannot lead alone. The flame chooses a heart to stand beside the royal blood. It has chosen yours. Ethan laughed nervously. I was fixing barns last week. Now I'm getting knighted by a space lamp. Serenia smiled, but her expression grew serious. It means you'll be hunted harder. The false king will send more than just hunters now. If he learns the bond has awakened, he'll come himself. Ethan frowned. Let him. A low rumble shook the chamber. Serenia looked around. The flame is fading. We must leave now. The energy won't hold this place open much longer. They turned to go, but the orb sent out one last pulse into Serenia's chest. She gasped, then stood. Taller, her eyes burned with new light. Her wound vanished, skin closing without a scar. She was whole again. They exited the tunnel just before the stone door closed behind them. The forest outside was darker than before. Clouds thickened the sky, as if nature itself knew something had changed. Ethan looked at her. How do you feel? She smiled fully now, stronger than he had seen her before. Alive, ready. He took her hand. So what's next? She looked up at the sky. We rise, we fight. We take back the crown. As she spoke, thunder rolled through the sky, not normal thunder, but deep, echoing like drums from another world. Ethan followed her gaze. Above, through the clouds, something massive was breaking through. A black ship, silent, smooth, alien. It hovered like a shadow over the trees. A beam of light shone down, scanning the ground. Serenia's eyes narrowed. He's here. Who? Ethan asked. She gripped his hand tighter. The false king, my cousin, the one who stole everything. Ethan squared his shoulders. Then, let's give him a welcome he won't forget. Together, they turned to face the storm in the sky. The ship hovered like a dark moon, silent and powerful. It blocked out the stars above the forest. The wind around it twisted the trees, and the animals nearby had long fled. Ethan and Serenia stood on a high rock ridge, looking up at the ship that had crossed stars to find them. It's his personal cruiser, Serenia said. No other vessel flies without sound like that. He's here in person. Ethan clenched his fists. Your cousin. She nodded. He was raised with me, trained beside me. But where I showed mercy, he showed ambition. He wanted the flame crown, no matter who had to die. A beam of white light shot from the ship and hit the forest floor, opening a glowing circle. From it, a single figure stepped out, tall, dressed in robes darker than night. a silver crown pulsing with light resting above his head like it floated. His skin looked like polished obsidian, and his eyes were hollow blue rings. He doesn't walk the ground unless he's sure he's all ready. "One," Serenia whispered. Ethan didn't wait. He stepped forward and shouted across the trees, "You're not welcome here." The false king looked up. His voice echoed unnaturally. "You must be the human. Strange that my cousin would bond with something so fragile." Ethan grinned. "Funny, I was going to say the same about you." The king raised his hand, and the sky shimmered. From the clouds, 3 more smaller ships dropped sleek and sharp. From them came more hunters, 10, maybe more, spreading through the forest like wolves. Serenia placed her palm on Ethan's chest. "Are you ready?" He took a breath. "I have no armor, no weapons. But I've got you. That's enough." She smiled, then leaned in and whispered something. The crest on her back glowed, and in an instant, Ethan's body lit with soft golden light. His clothes changed, woven into armor made of strange silk-like material, light as breath but harder. Then steel, royal bond armor, Serenia said. "It only forms for those the flame trusts. Now you tell me?" Ethan blinked. Then the first hunter attacked. Ethan moved faster than thought. The armor didn't just protect, it reacted. It guided his arms, his steps. He blocked the hunters. Blade with a shine from his wrist, then spun and sent it flying into a tree with a single punch. More came. Serenia raised her hand and called down arcs of energy blue fire from her fingertips. The forest turned into a battlefield of light and shadows. But the king didn't move. He only watched until Serenia stepped forward, eyes glowing brighter than ever. "This ends now." She and Ethan moved side by side through the burning woods, cutting down hunter after hunter. The crest pulsed between them, growing stronger with each heartbeat. When they reached the clearing, the king finally stepped down from the ship. He faced Serenia with a smile that held no warmth. "You were always too gentle," he said. "Too soft to rule. That's why the flame chose me." "No," Serenia said, voice firm. "The flame didn't choose you. You stole it. You twisted it, and now it rejects you." She looked at Ethan and nodded. He understood. They stepped forward together, the bond between them glowing like a sun. The king raised his arms, and darkness poured from his fingers. But it never reached them. The flame surrounded them, blocking every attack. And then Serenia raised her arms to the sky. The clouds split. Above them, a shape began to appear, huge, ancient, silver and gold. A ship not built by hands, but by will. The royal flame carrier, long lost, now summoned by the crest fully awakened. The false king stared in disbelief. "That ship only responds to the true ruler," Serenia said. A beam of light from the carrier touched the ground, and the king's crown cracked. His armor fell to ash. He tried to run, but the flame itself pulled him upward. His scream echoed, then vanished. Silence fell. The hunters stopped moving. Without their master, they stood still like statues, then shut down completely. The forest was still again. Ethan turned to Serenia. Her face was calm, glowing, full of peace. "It's over," he said softly. She looked at him. "It's beginning." Later that night, the carrier descended. Figures in glowing robes stepped out, survivors, loyalists, waiting in secret awe. This time for their queen to return. They bowed before Serenia. One of them looked at Ethan and asked, "Is he the bonded?" Serenia took Ethan's hand and smiled. "He's more than that." Ethan looked around at the stars, the royal ship, the strange world that had opened just because he chose to help a girl behind a church. He laughed softly. "So, do I get a crown or something?" She leaned close. "You already have my heart. That's worth more." And hand in hand, the human and the alien queen stepped into the ship that would take them not just to another world, but to a new future. They would rule together. Together, the flame burned brighter than ever. The END.